Tuesday morning, I will meet with two other pastors or three, and we talk about upcoming texts, and we sort of hint around at ways that we could work with our own congregations and talk about them. And that's usually pretty good. And so I had a sermon done on Tuesday, and it was all right. You know, it talked about bodies. It was like body language kind of stuff, and how we're all parts, and it's all that stuff that you could hear about anytime. And then, like last night, I realized it was pretty weak. Because it was just normal. You know, it was about 1 Corinthians chapter 12, the end of the chapter. So bear with me a little bit, because I have no idea necessarily where this is going to go, or how it's going to flow together, which is normal for me. Alright, so let's just see where it's going to go. So first, no shirt, no shoes, no service. You seen those signs? Yeah. Where have you seen those signs? Stores? Restaurants? Gas stations? Libraries. So my question is, if I were having office hours, which I do sometimes down at Mickey's down here right by the river, and I kicked off my shoes, would Carly still bring me lunch? So then I started wondering, we're going to have some nice weather coming up, and now, because there's no smoking, there's like these all outside places. What if it's a really hot day? And somebody kicks off their flip-flops, or a guy takes off his tank top, or anything like that. Are they going to move you out? Don't know. So these signs basically say, everybody's welcome, but there's some stipulations on it. Some very specific ones about no shirts, no shoes, no service. And I realized that a lot of us proclaim that we're really, really open to everybody. And then there's always a but. There's always a but there. And then I started to wonder, maybe that sign is up there for a particular person. Maybe Jared was coming in there with, taking off his shoes all the time and taking off his shirt. And so they just decided, all right, Jared, you can't come in here. We've talked to you, so here's the sign, and now you know it. Maybe not. I don't know. Can you flip the next one, please, Jess? So this is who we say we are. Inclusive of all. Including but not limited to. That's always one of those catchphrases, right? Conventional Christians and questioning skeptics. That's part of what we do here. We question a lot, and that moves us along. Believers and agnostics, right? It's okay to come and sit and try to figure out what's going on. Women and men, obviously, those of different sexual orientations and gender identities. We say that. We say that we're inclusive of all classes and abilities. And that's a lot like what Jill was reading in the Pauline stuff. At the very front, which is the stuff we forget, there's neither Jew nor Greek, right? And so there aren't Christians and skeptics. There aren't believers and agnostics, women and men, those of all sexual orientations and those of different classes and abilities. Everyone is equal. Or inclusive. Some of it's just because we have a common humanity. We have common struggles. We live in this place that we call Madison. There's ups and downs. We live with murders, beatings, all this stuff is going on. We're not a small town anymore. Here's a quote. Don't exclude people because they aren't the way you want them to be. Okay, and then it continues. Don't let your preconceived notions be the guiding principle of how you relate to others. Don't exclude people because they're not the way you want them to be. And don't let your preconceived notions be the guiding principle of how you relate to others. There was a time when you were them. Right? We talk about us. When we say there's an us, there must be a them. Maybe it should be a we. But there was a time, and we can all probably pick it, when we were a them. So although on this thing we say inclusive of all, I'm tempted to say, to change that in some way. But I haven't quite figured it out. Because the desire has really nothing to do with inclusivity. The desire is to be in relationship. There's a big difference. I can be inclusive of lots of people and still not be in a relationship with them. Right? That's possible to do. You can proclaim and even be inclusive and not have any relationship. There was some movie that's going to be on BET, Black Entertainment Television. And the movie's title is something like The Extinction of the Black Man. And this is a total sidetrack. The whole movie is about how the average lifespan of African American persons, it's like 35 in our country. And so the producer is talking about all this stuff, and then so he goes out and interviews mostly white people. And there's this one. This is getting to the point. There's this one where he goes up and he says, "So, do you like black people?" It's like, "Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There's nothing wrong with any black people. Do you have any black friends?" "Well, I work with a couple." "Have you ever been at their house?" "Oh, I don't even know where they live." You see what's going on? There's no relationship there. Absolutely zero. And we can take your pick, what you want to put into that African American. Whatever you want to put in there. And that brings us back to Paul. Next one, Jackson. There's this radical nature of Christianity, and that is that there's radical equality and radical grace. Jesus and God sees each of us as equals. That's how they see us. They see hearts, and they don't see all this stuff on the outside. And there is this need of grace that we have, and we deserve it too. Because God said so. Not because I did or we've earned something, but God said, that my kids deserve equality and deserve grace. So ultimately, this whole thing has nothing to do with getting and doing away with differences. It has to do with learning to live with differences. Learning to live with each other in relationships. Learning to live and have questions of each other. Learning to live and love each other just because we are who we are. That's what Paul's talking about here. Okay, that's where he's going. And I know this is really spliced together, so whatever. Yesterday, Lydia was watching some episodes from the second season of Glee. And there was this one that the whole plot was around differences. And every one of the kids in Glee Club were down on themselves because something was off, right? And eventually they decided, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make t-shirts with what we believe is wrong with us. Here's where it went. Oh, and Rachel broke her nose in the middle of this thing too, so. And then so the whole big thing was, is Rachel going to get her nose fixed or be like Barbara Streisand? And then there was a flash mob in that one too, and they did the Barbara Streisand song. That was awesome. So Rachel's, when she gets in there, she said, her shirt says, "Big Nose." And she just wore it, and it was beautiful. And then Finn, who happened to be the guy when they were doing this dance number and had knocked Rachel down and broke her nose, his says, "Can't dance." Artie, the guy in the wheelchair, doesn't say wheelchair. His says four eyes. Kurt, who's spectacular, says, "Likes boys." Mike, who is this Asian kid and is the best dancer out there, his says can't sing. Because he can't. I mean, they just make fun of him when he tries to sing. Brittany, she's the long blonde hair. Her says, "I'm with stupid." STOOPID. I gotta do this because you can't not. Puck, who is awesome. And he's African American and wears sports mohawk. His says, "I'm with stupid," with an arrow pointing down. Honest, right? Tina is an Asian woman, and hers says brown eyes. And then this guy named Sam, his says trouty mouth, because they make fun of his lips all the time. And then Mr. Shu, he's the teacher, his says butt chin. So he's got this big chin with a dimple. And Santana, who is awesome also, who you don't really know what's going on with Santana the whole time, but her shirt was made by the blonde girl by Brittany. And it says, Lebanese. Because she's lesbian. And Brittany is stupid. But then what you see, okay, it's hysterical, it really is funny. But then what you see is it's all these various differences that when the final number comes on, that brings out the most amazing song and dance. And the song was...
Born This Way, God.
Born This Way, thank you, was Born This Way. And that was a Lady Gaga song, right?
Yeah.
Right. And it says Born This Way, and they do this amazing number, and the only way they could do it is if they all owned who they were. So there is this crew of self-deprecating people who find relationships in and through their differences. Jesus sort of did the same thing. His disciples, they were not rank and file good people. And even those that he hung around with, they weren't the normal good people at all. I wonder what Jesus' shirt would have said. That could be something to ponder. But it's this radical nature of equality and grace that allows this community to live as community and in relationships. So here's the challenge for the week. And this is from C.S. Lewis. Can you think of a type of person who might make you uncomfortable if they sat next to you? Can you think of a person who would make type of a person who might make you uncomfortable if they sat next to you? May that person come into your life soon.